Hello, BookTube. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, I went to the Brattle Bookshop this morning. For those of you who are new to the channel, it feels like an eternity because I've been having construction work being done here at Hyde Cottage for a long time, for 3 weeks. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks. There's no end in sight, and that involves heavy machinery, bit drills, wires snaking everywhere, plastic tarps over everything, people coming and going, none of whom I know, which means I can't leave Frida in a situation like that. It's perfectly fine if I'm here to watch things and be inconvenienced by them, but I can't walk away. So I have to carefully note when there are openings. And there was an opening this morning, first thing, so I went to the Brattle Bookshop. And again, those of you who are new to this channel might not have heard me go on and on about it. It's a used bookstore in the heart of downtown Boston. And it's fantastic. I've been going there for a long, long time. Double and triple stacked shelves full of books on every subject, all reasonably priced and with a huge amount of turnover. Brattle's out all the time buying, all the time, all day long, every day. In addition to that, they have a sale lot next door, a vast area, thousands more books for $1, $3, and $5, arranged in no other way, just by price. And I really needed a break. I really needed a break. I give Frida a break as often as possible. We go on lots and lots of walks. But I needed a break of my own as well. So I went to the Brattle this morning, first thing, before the crowds, before any kind of weather. It's so humid and so gusty today that the further along the day went, the more likely it was that it would rain. And I had a wonderful time. Just a wonderful, wonderful time. And I got a bunch of books, which I want to show you. So I've got, let me clear off space here. I've got a stack of books that I want to show you. Probably quite a few of them illustrate axioms of the Brattle. Again, those of you who are new to the channel, there are quite a few of you who are new to the channel. There are rules that I've sort of observed over the years for the Brattle Bookshop, and quite a few of them are probably exemplified in here. One of the biggest benefits of that sale lot is that you can fill your arm with books without breaking the bank. It's possible if you're a little careful, or even if you're not, to come out with as many books as you can carry. A big tote bag full of books for very little money, for a fraction of what it would cost you in another used bookstore. So that explains some of the flyers that I took here, although not many. There aren't many flyers this time around. This first one is a UK mass market paperback of a novel I have not read in, oh my God, forever. When did this originally come out? 1978. It's probably since then that I read it. It's Nigel Tranter, who's gone now. He's largely forgotten now. He was a seminal historical fiction author, and this is his story of Macbeth. The book actually says, set aside Shakespeare. Just forget about Shakespeare. The same thing that you have to do with Dorothy Dunnett's book, King Hereafter. And I remember liking this quite a bit when I read it 80 million years ago. So when I saw it, I've never seen this cover before, but when I saw it, I grabbed it. Then this next one, I have a mass market paperback of this. I found it at the Brattle, I think, last year. But I found the trade paperback today. And the trade paperback in this format, in this edition, is the way that I was introduced to this book. This is Terry Brooks's book, The Sword of Shannara. The first book in his very nearly endless Shannara series. With the cover by the brothers Hildebrandt, and there's internal artwork, black and white artwork by the brothers Hildebrandt, and in this trade paperback, but not in the mass market. There's also a fold-out poster of the Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, our heroes. As you can tell, there are halflings and Aragorns and elves and dwarfs and whatnot. This is just about as close to Lord of the Rings clone as you can get. And I have the mass market paperback. It's under a tarp somewhere. I may never see it again. I'm sure that I don't know where it is. But I originally bought this thing as the trade paperback. What did this set me back? $6.95. That was real money at the time. This also came from the 70s, if I remember correctly. Yes, 1977. And I think I probably bought it and read it for the same reason that a lot of people did, because I was hungry for more Tolkien. And there's nothing, I guess, wrong with that. I don't remember being all that impressed by it, but it's been a long time. And in that interval, at the Brattle a year ago, 2 years ago, I found the second book in the series in trade paperback with Darrell K. Sweet cover. Pretty sure this is the only one that the brothers Hildebrandt illustrated. The others didn't have illustrations inside the book, as far as I know, and they moved to Darrell K. Sweet covers for book 2 and book 3 and maybe book 4, and then after that they became very boring covers. They dispensed with the A-list talent. And I have that other trade paperback here somewhere, but here at least I have this in the room, and since it's the first book in the series, I might just start with it. I might just start with it and see where I get. Then these next two are I'm wondering if there's anything in this pile that I haven't already read. I think there might be one thing. But these next two obviously came from the same source. It's another thing that you wonder about when you're out in the sale lot of the Brattle. You wonder, are these things look awful thematically similar? Did the same person get rid of these either by selling them to the Brattle or by dying? These next two are trade paperbacks of a scholarly nature. And I've read both of them before. One of them I absolutely love. It's actually here in this room. But my copy of it, I'm trying to find it on the shelves here. My copy of one of these is so battered by how often I go back to it that I was amazed to find a new old copy. But the first one is R.W. Chambers, the great R.W. Chambers, who's now, I think, probably entirely out of print, but who is so, so good. And this is his biography of Thomas More in an ugly, what is this, a Paragon paperback. It's just an ugly thing, and also not sturdy. It won't hold up to a lifetime of reading. It won't hold up to annotation, but it's on my mind, of course, because I am doing a slow read through of the third book in Hilary Mantel's Cromwell series, The Mirror and the Light. And Thomas More, of course, is long gone by then. He dies in the first book, but it's memorable. He's memorable. He's definitely haunts the narrative, even in the third book, even years later in the story. But he's also a memorable presence in the books because Hilary Mantel is sympathetic to Thomas Cromwell. She shouldn't be, but she is. And if you're going to be sympathetic to Thomas Cromwell, you have to hate Thomas More. And you have to therefore dispense completely with the Thomas More in Robert Bolt's play, A Man for All Seasons, that was made into a fantastic movie in which Paul Scofield plays Thomas More is little different than a secular saint. And the great Leo McKern, who went on to fame and fortune as Rumpole of the Bailey, plays Cromwell as pretty much exactly what Cromwell was like. He wasn't anything like the character in the Wolf Hall books. With that, Thomas More, of course, all the characters from those books are on my mind. So I grabbed this. That's the same reason that the other day when I was wandering around the ruins of my home, I spotted this just lying on top of everything else. This is the trade paperback of Dermot McCullough's new-ish biography of Thomas Cromwell. Great big thing that I think I got the trade paperback to send to one of you and then lost track of who it was who wanted it. And the hardcover of the McCullough book is long gone. I mean, it's still here, but it's buried under tarps and behind empty paint cans and whatnot. I don't know when I'll see it again. But the second book here is the one I was talking about. Couldn't believe it when I saw this thing. This is by John Buxton, and it's Sir Philip Sidney in the English Renaissance. This thing still has the sheen on it, from exactly the condition it was in when it was originally published. This came out in 1964, and it's so refreshing as a treatment of Sir Philip Sidney and the writing world in which he inhabited. It's so refreshing that in the way that it does that, it does not just lose its head in starry-eyed admiration of what a bravo he was, or what a gentleman he was, or whatever. Instead, it's about Sidney as a working writer, and all the working writers around him. Just terrific. Just an amazing book. And my copy, I still wish I had a hardcover of this, something that was truly durable. I feel certain that it must exist. Same thing with all of Chambers. They must exist as hardcovers. They probably just don't make it across, the Atlantic Ocean all that often. But I will definitely take a second copy, because the next time I go spelunking in my original trade paperback, it could fall apart on me. So it's a double. I got a double. And the next one is a double as well. I couldn't pass this up. So this will be what book aficionados refer to as a reading copy. I will reinforce this thing and beat the hell out of it. And this is the long-awaited Penguin Classic of the King James Bible. In pretty rough shape. I will have to reinforce this quite a bit. Across from me is the Penguin Classic bookshelf, and the Bible is there. I have a copy of it in perfect condition. But I always worry because the problem with having a perfect condition trade paperback of a book this big is the whole weight of the book is resting on this. If you pick it up wrong, if you hold it wrong, all these problems that you don't have with the ebook. You don't have to worry about that with the ebook at all. And I have, I believe, an ebook of this. But there's something to be said for just having the big wad of this in your hand. So I grabbed this. See, it almost fell out of my hand just then. And that would almost have ripped the back cover off because of the weight of the book. Then this next one is a triangle classic from Quality Paperback Book Club. For a while, decades ago, the Quality Paperback Book Club did a whole series of gay classics in really nice uniform trade paperbacks. I have, I think, one of them, maybe two. At one point, I had 20 of them. But I found one today, one of the most intriguing ones they ever did. This is by Henry Blake Fuller, and it is Bertram Cope's Year. And it's an odd book from more than 100 years ago. When did this come out? 1919. The author was turned down by everybody, down by every publisher. So he self-published it, and then it got put on a lot of readers' radar when Edmund Wilson wrote an essay about how effective it was as a book. And I believe this volume includes Edmund Wilson's... this has his essay, the essay that sort of pumped a new life into this. I'm pretty sure that that Bertram Cope's Year is still out of print. It's gone back out of print. Well, this is the story of... it's kind of a Tom Jones type thing. The main character is kind of an innocent who sort of bumbles through his life. He's a teacher at a college, and the thing that he doesn't understand is the thing that everyone around him feels, and that is sexual magnetism. He is a sexual beacon to everyone around him. And the reason why all of those publishers turned it down 100 years ago is because everyone includes men and young boys and teenage boys. It includes everybody. And I think I've read this before. I'll know in the first 20 pages, but I didn't have a nice, pretty edition. See, that was the colophon that they had. And they had a long list of things that are worth finding. You'll never find them in a prettier trade paperback. Then this next one is, I think, the only book here today that I have not read. And even there, it just squeaks by. Unless Bertram Cope's Year is one. But I'm pretty sure I've read Bertram Cope's Year. I'm pretty sure I can almost picture what the edition looked like that I read. Didn't look anything like this. But I can almost picture what it looked like from some old library. No, it wasn't an old library. It was an old friend who strongly recommended it and had a copy that he lent me. No, this next one is something that I haven't read, but only by a whisker, because I have read the work. I just haven't read this translation. And this, who do we have here for a translation? This is translated by Anne and Peter Wiseman. And this is from 1980, and it is The Battle for Gaul, Julius Caesar's Battle for Gaul. Can you make out that cover? This is Julius Caesar's books about his campaigns in Gaul. I don't know what's going on with this cover. I don't know why the person on this cover is shown wearing his finest, his best dress. That is not camp dress. That is not how you would dress to sit down and write by lamplight in the evening. I don't understand why this person has one single flame grease lamp there if it's supposed to be Julius Caesar. I don't understand why the person is writing on this particular table when you wouldn't do that. As you can see, there's a rim going all the way around the table, so it wouldn't be suitable for writing. And I have no idea why this person has a full head of hair. Maybe a tiny little bald spot up at the top. trust me, by the time Julius Caesar had people ghostwrite his book about Gaul, his dispatches from Gaul, he was as bald as an egg. But the neat thing about this translation is that they changed the way Caesar wrote it just a bit. The Wisemans take a liberty that I'm amazed more translators of the books of Caesar's Gaul campaigns don't do. Because Caesar wrote them, or had them written, or whatever, in the third person. So he's doing everything, but it's Julius Caesar in the book who's doing it. Except in this translation, where it's I did this, I did that, I did something else, which is fascinating and may end up. I don't think I've ever read a translation of Caesar's Gaul books that did that, and I wonder how it will affect the reading experience. But this edition has that translation, but it also has tons of illustrations, just all throughout. Not just period pieces that have been unearthed from Gaul and from Britain, but also let me get you an example here. There's also artwork. Things are diagrammed and described. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I have the landmark Julius Caesar, which does much the same thing, but this is a translation that I don't know. So that'll count as the only thing I think in this entire thing that I haven't already experienced. Like, for instance, this next one I read when it first came out. I think we saw it on this channel. It's that new. This came out in 2018. This is Michael Jones, and this is his book on the Black Prince in a trade paperback. I had this as an advanced copy. I had it as a finished copy. I think I sent both of them away to some of you, to history fans out there. And it's stuck in my mind. It's as a really good biography of the warrior son of King Edward III, who was mentioned in dispatches and famous on the battlefields, on many battlefields. And this gets into not just all of his military exploits, which any Black Prince biography will do, but a lot of his personal life as well. Michael Jones does a really good job of unearthing what household contracts might mean, what wardrobe expense accounts might mean. It's a really well done job. I've been thinking about it. Every time I used to pass by my biography section, back when I could see it, back when it wasn't tarped over, I would always think, gee, kind of wish I'd encounter that book again. And I did today. So I grabbed it. Definitely a reread, since it'll go in this room. This is where I'm living. This is where I'm eating. This is where I'm doing all my reading and writing. So it'll just stay here. Then this next one, I think Island Press is a UK publisher. I've never seen this edition of this book before, but I tried this. I got an advanced copy from the publisher a long, long time ago. This was in the 1990s. 2001. I got an advanced copy from the publisher because some publishers just never lose track of your information. Read it, didn't particularly care for it. Then I got the hardcover, and the American hardcover was well done. I read it, didn't particularly care for it. And I found other editions over the years, and I keep going back to it because I keep thinking it's one of those books where I keep thinking I must be missing something. I think I am. And it's this. It's by Dick Russell, and it's called The Eye of the Whale. You've got a hand reaching down there to touch a whale's snout. And this is about gray whales and their migratory habits and their nature and whatnot. But it's also, there's a lot about the people involved and their quirks, the people who are on the research vessels that Dick Russell joins for all of this. And every time that I've read this thing, I've thought, okay, well, you're an engaging writer, but there's way too much of that. Nobody goes to a book this size, for what the quirky chef did on one boat that you were on off Baja, California, especially if you're going to spend 35 pages on it. No one does that. They come to this book for the gray whales. Maybe I let my irritation get away with that. Maybe there's less of that than I think. So when I saw it at the Brattle for obviously a very reasonable price, I grabbed it. I'll give it another try. Then we have a novel. This will take some reinforcing, but I don't think I'll get rid of it. This is a Venice novel by Hallberg, who I don't think is in print anymore. I don't think his reputation is alive, and that's a shame. I think he's genuinely brilliant. When he's on, he's genuinely brilliant. This is Profane Friendship, which is a novel about a visiting European who falls in love with a Venetian gondolier, but it's also about Venice. as is true with sensitive souls when they write books set in Venice, usually Venice comes to take over the book. It happened with E.M. Forster. It happened with um, I'm blanking on the name. I think it's Ethan Mordaunt that I'm thinking of. The Venice Adriana is the book that I'm thinking of. But it happens with Henry James as well. It happens with everybody. It happens when sensitive souls do this. Venice tends to take over. It even happened with Jane Langton. When she wrote a book, one of her Homer Kelly murder mysteries set in Venice, Venice just takes over. I've had it happen myself. I've written a couple of short stories set in Venice, and I had a plot in mind, but it doesn't matter. But I will be concentrating on the plot this time. So I guess this is another example of gay fiction, right? Just like Bertram Cope's Year. I guess this is another example of gay fiction. Profane Friendships is about a lot more than that. It's a serious, multi-layered novel, whereas this thing is just plain gay fiction. This is Tricks of the Trade by Ben Tyler. And this is from the 1990s, I'm pretty sure. When did you come out? 2001. And it's about a closeted Hollywood star and, you know, the trials and tribulations that he has to go through. And there's tons and tons of insider baseball, tons and tons of gossip that is codified on the page with the names of the innocent barely changed. And it's sharp and it's funny. And I've been thinking about it on and off over the years since I read it, 20 years since I read it, never having given it another try. It's not just what it seems. It is very much what it seems. But it's not just that either. It's got the crackle of genuine wit. I'm looking forward to seeing how much of that holds up in another read. Then this next one is a little bit exorbitant on my part. It was $1, so I wasn't breaking the bank. The other day, I found a copy of Joseph Heller's novel, Picture This, at a little free library up on one of my walks with Frida Bean. It's an ugly trade paperback. It has an arm reaching down to carry an empty frame. I remember that printing of Heller's novels, and I didn't much care for it. But I thought, it's been a long time, 30 years or so, since I read Picture This. And I remember not particularly liking it as a whole. It's definitely not a novel. It's a jottings book. It's a commonplace book that is sort of dressed up. There's no through line of plot. It's not a historical novel about Rembrandt, for instance, even though it sort of obsessively centers on the Rembrandt painting of Aristotle contemplating a bust of Homer. It sort of centers on that painting and goes back to it over and over again, and it goes back to Rembrandt's life quite a bit, but it's not a historical novel about Rembrandt. It's really just Joe Heller engaging in metafiction in a way that his rival on the bestseller list of eons past, John Barth, eventually lost his mind doing. But I still remember liking it. I mean, it wasn't an effective novel, but I read it all the way to the end and really liked it. I had a little mass market paperback, and that is long gone, probably at the bottom of the Mississippi River. But I got that trade paperback from that little free library, and I thought, okay, well, it's nice to participate in little free libraries, and it's nice you don't ever want to turn down the random gifts of the gods. So I took it, I was thinking, what I really want is a different format. I don't particularly like this. I grabbed it because I want to reread it. And then at the Brattle, I found the hardcover, which at least gives you the painting of Rembrandt of Aristotle contemplating the bust of Homer. But you've got a crowd looking at it, right? There's Socrates and Aristotle and Rembrandt himself, and in the back, sort of craning over everybody's shoulder, is Joseph Heller. The mass market paperback had this in much greater detail, so you could look at it and see. I don't think this does, even as an inset. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. No, there would have been no money left over after paying the author every last bit of spare change that could be shaken out of the couch cushions. But I found the hardcover. I will probably repatriate the trade paperback rather than hold on to both of them. I don't need both of them. But the fact that I found that trade paperback at a little free library, and then I found the hardcover at the Brattle days later, tells me that the gods are watching. It tells me that I absolutely have to reread the book soon. I can't ignore that. You can't ignore that when that happens. So I will. And then the last thing that I got here is a novel, a big, thick novel, a celebrated debut novel that's made its debut. It's young tobacco addict debut author, a squintillion dollars. I got the trade paperback of it. I got the advanced copy from the publisher. Filled it with reviews, read all the reviews that were. It got everybody's attention. But I never got the finished copy. And I've never seen it. I've never seen the finished copy at a used bookstore. I kept thinking the Brattle will provide, and it never did until today. This is Garth Hallberg's debut, City on Fire. His great New York novel of decades past with a quartet of main characters. I read it. I read that advanced copy before I started sticking reviews in it. I thought it was extremely well done. An extremely well done novel. It reminded me a lot of The Art of Fielding, in that I don't think there'll ever be another novel, but I've intentionally held off on rereading it. I didn't want to reread that advanced copy. It just seemed too pokey to do. I just kept waiting, sort of as a challenge, to find the hardcover, and I finally did today. So this will also be on the reread, probably for the summer. So there you go. That was my my relief was needed trip to the Brattle. No idea when I will get a chance to go there again. There are no openings this week. No more openings this week. Full slate of construction until the wee small hours every day for the rest of time. I could go on the weekends. Generally, there is no work being done on the weekends unless I insist on it. But I don't really like the Brattle on a Saturday. They're not open on Sunday, but they're open on Saturday. And on Saturday, 1 million people show up there, and it's a million people, and it's 1 million people from lower Slovenia who don't have any idea how to behave in public. Tourists don't have any idea how to behave in public. You wonder where they come from. So someone will go to the sale lot of the Brattle, which is just carts on wheels, and they'll find a book on the top shelf of one of those carts, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. Just lean on the cart and start reading. Totally blocking the cart. Totally blocking one whole side of it. Until you tell them. Until you actually say, excuse me. And I've had it happen where I will say, excuse me, and the person just sort of sidles over like that. They still leave the elbows on the cart. Like I'm supposed to reach past their crotch to look at what I want. I've actually had to tell some customers over the decades, pick the book up that you're reading and step 3 steps away from this cart. You're blocking what other people are here to see. And one time, as you can see coming, one time in the late 1980s, I actually had to do that. I said that to a customer, and they said no, and I said, I'm going to give you to the count of 3, and if you haven't moved by then, I'm going to move you. I'll be gentle unless you offer me any resistance. Any resistance at all will cripple you for the rest of your life. I will help you to understand what common courtesy means. I'm going to count to 3. I got to 3, the person was just reading like a zombie, and I just moved them like they were a sleepwalking child. I just moved them to where they were out of the way of the cart. I always tell people, I don't come here so that you can determine how many books I will look at. I come here to look at all the books. If you're on the way, I'm going to ask you to move. If you refuse, I'm going to tell you to move. If you refuse, then I'm going to move you. But I'm not going to go home and say, well, gee, I wish I could have looked at that shelf or all of those shelves, except there was some moron in the way. And that tends to happen on Saturdays more than it does, like, for instance, first thing in the morning on a weekday. So I don't know that I'll be going back to the Brattle until another opening opens up in what is clearly going to take all summer. I don't want to gripe about construction work. I will attempt to circumvent this work taking all summer in the only way I know how, which is money. We'll see if that works. But anyway, in the meantime, I at least got to go to the Brattle today. I got a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be happy to have in this room. Bunch of rereading that I'm going to do over the course of July. So we got City on Fire by Garth Hallberg, the multimillionaire Garth Hallberg. We got Picture This by Joseph Heller. His book about Rembrandt, about Aristotle, about Homer. We got Tricks of the Trade by Ben Tyler, which I have not seen since I was selling this hardcover in bookstores 30 years ago. We have Profane Friendship by Harold Brodke, a gay novel, but also a Venice novel. We have Eye of the Whale by Rick Russell. We'll see if 10th time is a charm. We have The Black Prince, a biography of the Black Prince. Very much up for a reread of this thing. Very happy to have found it. We have Julius Caesar, The Battle for Gaul. in a heavily illustrated new translation that puts Caesar front and center in the first person singular. We have Bertram Cope's Year by Henry Blake Fuller, which may be the only book on this list that I haven't read at all. I think I have, though. I got a double of the long-awaited Penguin Classic King James Bible. I got Sir Philip Sidney and the English Renaissance. I got Chambers' biography of Thomas More that really has never been equaled. I got The Sword of Shannara in a nice big trade paperback. And finally, Macbeth the King by Nigel Tranter. One of Nigel Tranter's innumerable historical novels that I really ought to revisit them all. I ought to revisit all of Nigel Tranter. I ought to revisit all of Dorothy Dunnett, for that matter, including her Macbeth novel. But all in due time. They might be at the Brattle for all I know. But I don't get to go back to my home away from home for quite some time. So we can both enjoy this Brattle haul together. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.